Strap on your furs and grab a tankard of mead, friends. Tonight, we're trudging deep into Skyrim. This isn't your cosy winter getaway. This is a province where comfort is a myth, survival is an occupation, and even your pillow wants you dead. Let's step into the frozen madness together. And before we begin, imagine waking up tomorrow in Skyrim. What's the one real-world thing you absolutely couldn't live without? Drop your answer in the comments, and if you're enjoying these adventures, hit like and subscribe for more journeys through Tamriel. Let's begin. You wake to the sound of rain on the roof, not a storm, just that soft, steady kind of Skyrim rain that makes the thatch whisper and the windows fog with warmth. The kind of morning where everything outside looks wet and everything inside smells faintly of smoke, pine resin and recently baked bread. You're in Riverwood, sleeping in a spare room above the Sleeping Giant Inn, which is, despite the name, not particularly giant and doesn't contain any visible giants. The bed beneath you is simple, but it holds warmth like a hearthstone, and the blanket, actual wool, not burlap, is heavy in the best way. You don't move right away. Why would you? There's no dragon overhead, no courier pounding on the door, no Derrick whispers in your dreams. Just the soft creak of the beams above you and the distant clatter of Delphine rearranging mugs downstairs for the 6th time this week. Eventually you stretch. The floor is cold, but your boots are by the fire where you left them last night. Still a bit damp, but better than usual. You dress slowly. No armour today. Just a warm tunic, thick socks, and your favourite fur-lined cloak that smells faintly of juniper berries and campfires. Downstairs, the inn is quiet. Orgnar grunts a greeting and slides a bowl of stew your way without comment. You thank him, and he nods once, the highest form of approval he offers. The stew is cabbage and leek, with a bit of venison if you're lucky. It's warm, salty, and tastes exactly like the kind of meal that doesn't ask questions. Outside, Riverwood glistens. The rain has turned the dirt paths into soft, muddy trails, and the wooden planks of the bridge are slick with moss and memory. Chickens mill about like the gods aren't watching. Hod is already chopping wood in the drizzle, bare-armed and completely unbothered, while Gerda leans in the doorway of the mill sipping tea that steams against the rain. You don't have a destination today. You promised yourself no caves, no Draugr, no awkward political debates in Dragon's Reach. Just peace. So you wander, first to the riverbank, where the salmon fight the current with stubborn grace. You sit on a half-dry rock and toss a few pebbles into the current. Across the river, Faendal is practicing archery again, carefully ignoring the fact that Sven is trying very hard to serenade Camilla with a lute that's seen better centuries. You watch for a while, you don't intervene. Eventually you stop by Alva's forge, not for any real purpose, just to warm your hands near the coals and listen to the steady rhythm of hammer on iron. He gives you a respectful nod, says nothing, and keeps working. It's the kind of silence that feels like friendship. Lunchtime rolls around without ceremony. You pick up a wedge of soft goat cheese and a sweet roll from Lucan's shop. He overcharges, but he wraps it in a linen cloth and throws in a bottle of mead with a wink. You sit by the fire pit behind the inn, where a few locals have gathered under the awning to avoid the rain. Someone passes a pipe. You don't ask what's in it. You just sit, chew, sip, and listen to the rain on the wood. By afternoon, the clouds hang lower. Rain becomes mist. The whole valley smells of wet pine and wood smoke. You chop wood for a while behind Gerda's house, partly to help, partly to move, partly because the repetitive thunk of axe on log is oddly satisfying. A dog watches you the entire time from under a cart, eyes glowing with the kind of judgment only dogs possess. You split about 12 logs, which earns you half a septim and a smile. Later, you return to the inn. Your room is dimly lit by a single candle and the low orange flicker of the hearth. The floor creaks under your boots. You sit at the small wooden table by the window. Outside, the rain has slowed, and the sky is now that deep twilight blue where the sun has set but hasn't quite admitted defeat. You light another candle, pull out your journal. Nothing exciting happened today, and that's the point. You write anyway. Quiet day. Rain. No injuries. Nobody tried to kill me. Ate cheese. You underline cheese twice for emphasis. As the candle burns lower, you hear the faint sound of someone humming downstairs. Possibly Sven. Possibly Orgnar. Possibly the inn itself, creaking in time with the wind. You don't mind. You take off your boots, pull the blanket around your shoulders, curl up on the bed and stare at the wooden ceiling, where centuries-old smoke stains fade into the beams like distant constellations. And for once, you fall asleep without your sword under your pillow. No quests, no curses, no dragons. Just you, a firelit room, and the soft patter of rain on the roof. Welcome to Skyrim. Sometimes it remembers how to be kind. Waking up in Winterhold sounds more dramatic than it is. There's no grandeur here, not anymore. The town sits precariously on a cliff's edge, clinging to the frozen north coast like a stubborn barnacle. Years ago, it was a proud city. Now, it's a handful of buildings, a collapsing inn, and a population of deeply disappointed Nords. Your bed at the frozen hearth is narrow and suspiciously lumpy, as if stuffed with fish bones and unresolved trauma. The pillow smells faintly of long-dead hawker, and the only thing keeping you warm is your fur cloak and the crushing weight of bad decisions. Outside, Winterhold greets you with its usual warmth. None. A blizzard barrels in from the sea of ghosts, shredding visibility in your patience. Snow whips at your face like a debt collector. The wind howls with the enthusiasm of a summoned remora, and the skies a dull, oppressive grey, like it forgot how to feel joy. You wrap your cloak tighter and trudge toward the college. The bridge is still intact, somehow. An architectural miracle held aloft by ancient magicka and sheer spite. Ferelda is at her usual post, staring into the void and daring someone to ask for admission. You nod politely, she nods back without blinking. You both understand the dance. Inside the college, it's marginally warmer. Marginally. The Hall of Attainment creaks ominously in the storm. Your room is just as you left it. Books askew, potions half-brewed, and a soul gem you're pretty sure is humming. Jazago left a note on your alchemy table offering to test new scrolls that probably won't explode again. You decide to pass. Tolfdir is already in the main hall lecturing nobody in particular about ancient Nord burial practices. Brelina is trying to summon a flame atronach that looks more like a candle with anxiety. You grab a stale sweet roll from the communal table and slip out before someone asks you to help with an experiment. You were never meant to be a mage. Heading south from Winterhold, the terrain becomes more punishing with every step. Snow deepens, visibility drops, and the wind develops a personality, sarcastic mostly. The path vanishes beneath snowdrifts, and you begin navigating by instinct in the occasional half-buried signpost. Eventually you reach a small camp of Dunmer refugees. They nod to you, offering warmth and the kind of hospitality born from shared suffering. You sit by their fire, grateful for the silence and the kwama egg stew, meagre but hot. One of them tells you stories of Morrowind before the Red Year. You listen. In Skyrim, history always feels like something clawing at your back. As the sun weakly crosses the sky, more suggestion than illumination, you press westward into the Pale, heading toward Dawnstar. The road is long, icy, and depressingly featureless. Trees thin out into skeletal reminders of forests long dead. Snow covers everything in a uniform white, erasing depth, direction, and hope. Wolves follow at a distance. You try not to look tired. A storm hits halfway between nowhere and nothing. It's not just snow, it's a wall of freezing wind so fierce it feels personal. You find brief shelter beneath an overhang, clutching your pack, as the snow tries to rearrange your face. When it passes, the world looks new again, untouched, silent and vaguely menacing. You pass the wreck of Alftand in the distance, its ancient Dwemer spires jutting from the snow like broken ribs. You shiver, not just from the cold, but from the memory of what lurks beneath. Falmer, chitinous, blind and very much not gone. You keep walking. Night begins to fall, but you're still far from safety. In Skyrim, twilight is not gentle, it's abrupt. The temperature drops with a violence that feels spiteful. You press toward a cave marked on your map, hoping it's empty. It is not. Inside, a frost troll glares at you like you just insulted its mother. You freeze, it growls. You weigh your options and remember that running is a valid tactic. You do. It chases. You flee into the snow, tripping twice, sliding once, until it finally loses interest and you collapse into a drift like a half-frozen sack of potatoes. Eventually you find a hunter's shack near the base of the mountains, abandoned thankfully. It leans precariously, roof sagging under the weight of accumulated snow and regrets. Inside, there's a fireplace, a broken chair, and a bedroll that's 70% moths. You take it. Dinner is dried venison and regret, You build a fire using brittle wood and desperation. It crackles weakly, but it's enough to stave off death by irony. The next morning you head southwest toward Labyrinthian. The path is steep, treacherous, and suspiciously goat-filled. Skyrim's goats possess a supernatural ability to climb vertical surfaces and shame your hiking abilities. You slip twice. A goat watches. You swear it laughs. Labyrinthian looms ahead, massive, crumbling and haunting. Once a mighty city of the dragon cult, now a monument to hubris and bad lighting. You don't enter, not today. You've already met enough spectral anomalies and undead priests for 1 week. Instead, you make camp just outside the ruins. The sky's clear now, stars glitter overhead, and the moons cast silver light across the snow. It's beautiful in that this could kill me at any second sort of way. You sit by your fire, sipping from a water skin filled with slightly fermented mead. It tastes like it fought someone on the way down. You don't mind. In the distance, a dragon roars. You don't move. Not tonight. Tonight is about surviving. About remembering that in Skyrim, peace is temporary, comfort is rare, and socks are always damp. But it's yours. All of it. The snow, the cold, the ancient ruins and forgotten magic. The land itself feels alive, and you are a part of its stubborn, frostbitten heartbeat. Tomorrow you'll fight again. Draugr, wolves, bandits, bureaucracy. You'll fall in caves, forget where your horse is, and get yelled at by guards for shouting indoors. But tonight, you rest. Not comfortably, not warm, but rest all the same. This is Skyrim. It's miserable. It's magical. It's home. You're walking. Not galloping majestically on horseback. Not gliding like a thief in the night. Just walking. Boots scraping against damp earth. Occasionally sliding on loose gravel. Dodging a suspiciously territorial goat on a narrow bend. You're somewhere southwest of Falkreath. The pine-thick part of Skyrim where roads feel more like suggestions and wolves seem contractually obligated to attack every 15 minutes. You didn't plan to be here, but then again in Skyrim plans have the life expectancy of a mud crab in a slaughterfish pond. The morning fog hasn't lifted. It hangs low and stubborn, coiling between the trees like it has secrets to keep. Birds chirp in the distance, or maybe that's a Spriggan screeching. Hard to tell in Falkreath. You keep one hand near your sword just in case the moss starts moving. Your pack is heavier than usual. Mostly ingredients, canis root, a few nightshade blossoms, and about 16 more tundra cotton tufts than any reasonable person needs. You promised yourself you wouldn't become an alchemy hoarder, and yet here you are, dragging a portable herbarium through the woods like a confused forest witch. Breakfast was crusty regrettable. 2-day-old skeever jerky, a wedge of cheese hard enough to be weaponized, and a single boiled potato you forgot to season or love. You chew it slowly as you walk, listening to your own footsteps and the faint ever-looming sound of Skyrim plotting your demise. As noon approaches, the forest opens slightly, revealing the western marshes of the Reach. You hadn't planned on going this way, but the road north collapsed into a river during last night's thunderstorm. A reminder that Skyrim's infrastructure was clearly designed by Draugr. You follow a narrow game trail now, winding through golden ferns and tall grass. The ground squelches beneath you. Your socks are wet again, of course. In Skyrim, it doesn't matter if you're wearing steel boots or enchanted glass greaves. Water will find your toes. Always. You pass a crumbling stone marker, ancient and weathered, with the faded carving of a moth, a remnant of the old days, when the Reach belonged to the Reachmen, before the Nords took it, before the Nords lost it, before the Nords took it again and decided to pretend it had always been theirs. You don't dwell on it. There's movement in the trees, and you stop, slowly shift your weight, and scan the ridge above. For a tense moment, nothing. Then a forsworn arrow lodges itself into the dirt 6 inches from your foot. With a sigh, you run. Not fight, run. You're not proud. You're not here for glory. You're here to not get stabbed by someone in goat skulls screaming about the old gods. That's your entire agenda. You duck into a hollow, slide down a muddy incline, and splash into a shallow stream with all the elegance of a sack of flour. Cold water floods your boots. You mutter something unkind about the divines. Eventually the shouting fades. The arrows stop. You breathe. The Reach wins again. By mid-afternoon, you find shelter beneath a wind-warped rock overhang near a small cave entrance. You've learned not to go into caves on an empty stomach, so you sit, wring out your socks, and chew on more jerky. It tastes slightly less awful when you're grateful to be alive. The cave is marked on your map as unexplored. which in Skyrim usually means contains either something undead, something enchanted, or something that screams when lit on fire. You pass. Instead, you follow the Karth River westward, its current slow and glassy beneath the golden sky. You walk for what feels like hours, until the world opens into a wide, rocky valley crowned by distant cliffs. In the distance, the silhouette of old Rolden Inn appears like a worn memory, familiar, slightly askew, and possibly haunted. Perfect. You cross the river via a shaky wooden bridge that looks like it was built by someone with no concept of weight distribution. One plank snaps beneath you, but you don't fall. You take it as a sign that you deserve a nap and some soup. The inn is empty, save for Idis, who greets you with a polite nod and a bowl of stew that tastes surprisingly decent. Leek, carrot, and possibly skeever, but seasoned, and that's what matters. You ask for a room. She gives you the one upstairs. The haunted one, she doesn't mention it. You don't ask. Your room smells like dust and old dreams. There's a shield on the wall, chipped, blood-stained, probably a replica of Hjalti Earlybeard's. The bed is somehow both too hard and too soft in all the wrong places, but you lie down anyway. You try to sleep. You don't. You lie awake as the wind howls outside, rattling the old shutters like an angry ghost looking for the door. Your boots are by the fireplace steaming gently. Your sword rests nearby, its edge dull from deflecting poor decisions all day. And then, you hear it. The faint echo of a voice, a soldier's voice, rambling, fading in and out like smoke. You sit up, listen. Nothing. You chalk it up to exhaustion, and possibly the stew. Eventually sleep comes. Fitful, twitchy, burdened by dreams of marching, clashing steel, and the distant roar of time-worn battles long faded from history. When you wake, it's still dark. A low blue glow lights the horizon. Dawn is a few hours away, but Skyrim doesn't wait for you to be ready. You gear up, pack your herbs, finish the last of your jerky with a grimace. Outside, a light snow begins to fall, soft and disinterested. The wind smells of river mist and pine sap. In the distance, you see a trail heading up toward Markarth, and beyond that, who knows? Another day of wolves, caves, shouting ghosts, and questionable culinary decisions awaits. And despite everything, the cold, the ghosts, the chronic dampness, you feel strangely at peace. Because this is Skyrim, and for better or worse, you're still walking. You wake to warmth. Not the desperate kind you cling to in caves or mountain passes, but true warmth, earned, gentle, alive. The fire in your hearth has burned low, but the embers still glow like buried rubies beneath a layer of ash. Your wool blanket is pulled snug under your chin. One leg is poking out, a bold move in Skyrim, but somehow the room holds the heat, cradling you like a second skin. Outside, the rain has stopped. The silence it leaves behind is almost reverent. You hear the slow drip of water from the eaves, the distant rustle of a breeze through wet pine branches. The inn is still asleep. No clatter from Orgnar. No boots on the stairs. Even the usual snoring from the next room is blessedly absent. For a long time you don't move. You just lie there, eyes barely open, watching the morning light filter through the warped window glass. Greyish gold, softened by fog, like the world hasn't quite decided whether it's waking up or dreaming. Eventually you rise. Your clothes from yesterday are still by the hearth, warm from proximity to the fire, though the boots are cold again. Skyrim's small betrayals never really stop. You slip them on with a grunt and stretch slowly, your back cracking like old timber. A good sign. It means you're still alive. You step out into the hall, careful not to wake anyone. Downstairs, the inn is still empty, dimly lit by a few guttering candles. A faint smell of mead and baked ash clings to the wood. You quietly retrieve a half-loaf of bread from the bar and a wedge of goat cheese wrapped in cloth. You pour yourself a mug of warm spiced milk from the kettle left over the fire. Orgnar, surprisingly thoughtful, must have left it before bed. You sit at the table by the front window. Outside, Riverwood is wrapped in fog. The mountains loom like ghosts. The trees are still dripping, the paths slick and empty. Even the chickens aren't up yet. You eat slowly, quietly. You watch the mist roll through the valley like it has somewhere to be. Eventually you hear footsteps. Hod, no doubt. Always the first to rise. He passes the window carrying an axe already off to split the morning's wood. A few minutes later, Gerda appears. hair tied back, arms full of linens and quiet purpose. No words, just movement. Life. The village stirs. Faendal crosses the bridge, bow slung over one shoulder, expression unreadable. His boots leave clean prints in the wet dirt. He pauses, glances towards Sven's house, and continues on. Alva's forge hisses back to life, the sound of bellows and steel, of rhythm and heat. Lucan's shoplight flickers on, spilling warm amber through the fog. The town is waking carefully, like a sleeping bear on a mild morning. You finish your milk, wipe your hands, and step outside. The air bites your nose but kisses your lungs. Crisp, wet, full of that post-rain smell. Earth, pine, smoke, and distant snowmelt. You inhale deeply, and for a moment, everything is still. Everything feels real. You don't know what today holds. You never do. You might leave Riverwood today, or you might not. You may finally head toward Whiterun and deliver that message you've been putting off for 2 days. Or maybe you'll walk to the standing stones and stare at them for an hour, waiting for the wind to decide something for you. For now, you head to the chopping block behind Gerda's house. You pick up the axe, set a log upright, and swing. Thunk again. Thunk, and again. The rhythm settles into your bones, slow and satisfying. The kind of work that keeps your hands busy and your mind still. You're not a hero here. You're not the Dragonborn. You're just someone splitting wood before breakfast in a village too small to be noticed and too kind to be forgotten. The sun begins to rise behind the mist, smearing gold across the sky like spilled mead. The valley glows. The birds return. A dog barks once. Someone starts humming. And in that fragile, fleeting moment, axe in hand, boots damp, belly warm, you understand what so few people in Skyrim ever do. That peace isn't something you find, it's something you make. One log at a time. The log splits cleanly. You set another, lift, swing. The rhythm is steady, unhurried. By the time the pile at your side is waist high, the morning has burned through the fog, and Riverwood glows gold against the green. The river rushes louder now, swollen from the rain. The mill wheel turns lazily, throwing off a spray of silver water in the light. You wipe your brow and lean on the axe just for a moment. Your arms are warm, your breath steady. For once you feel like someone who belongs here. Not a traveller passing through, not a restless wanderer between quests, but part of the rhythm of the village itself. Gerda thanks you quietly when she comes by to collect the wood. She doesn't linger, she never does, but her smile is enough. In Skyrim, smiles are rarer than septims and worth more. You take the hint and wander toward the river. The water is clear as polished glass, cold enough to burn your fingertips when you dip them in. Salmon swim lazily against the current, flashes of silver darting beneath the surface. You kneel on the damp grass and watch them, letting the roar of the water drown out thought. On the far bank, Faendal reappears, bow in hand, already carrying a brace of rabbits. He nods once in your direction before melting back into the trees. His life is quiet, but not small. A reminder that not every story in Skyrim involves prophecies or shouting down mountains. Eventually, hunger calls. You wander back toward the Sleeping Giant Inn, the door creaking as you push it open. The hearth inside has been stoked to life. Orgnar is setting out mugs. Delphine pretends to dust a shelf, though her eyes linger on you a fraction longer than necessary. You ignore it. Everyone in Skyrim has secrets. You're in no hurry to learn hers. Lunch is a bowl of fish stew and half a loaf of warm bread, still soft at the centre. The stew is salty, rich with leeks, and almost good enough to forget how many boots have been dried in the same fire beside you. Almost. After eating, you sit back in your chair staring at the flames. It's tempting. Gods, it's tempting. To stay like this all day. But the world outside the village has a way of tugging at your sleeve. By mid-afternoon, the road is calling, not loudly, not with urgency, just with that quiet suggestion that there's something beyond the bridge worth walking toward. So you pack your cloak, thank Orgnar with a nod, and step back into the sunlight. The chickens scatter across the mud. A child runs past, chasing a dog. The river glitters. You cross the bridge, boots creaking against the damp planks. You pause at the centre, resting your hands on the railing. The water rushes below, carrying branches and leaves toward Whiterun Hold. The road stretches ahead, north to Whiterun, east to who knows where. You don't decide right away. Instead, you stand there, letting the air move through your cloak, the sound of the water filling your ears, and the warmth of riverwood lingering behind you like an ember carried in your chest. When you finally take your first step, it's not with urgency, or even purpose, it's just walking, and in Skyrim, sometimes that's enough.